Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Catalyst Conversations. So this is our new webinar streamed live here from the School of Science, Engineering and Environment at the University of Salford. So we are wishing you a warm welcome on this cold morning from Salford. We're in northwest England of the UK. We know that many people are signing up from different parts of the UK and the world, so we're very happy to have you here with us today. So I'm just a project coordinating for catalyzing changes in chemical sciences project, our EDI research project. I will tell you a little bit about, and then I'm going to be handing over to our speaker, Dr. Umran Ali, for the first session. So the Royal Society of Chemistry has recently written a report where it's evidence that the UK, we have an equal representation of Black and minority ethnic chemists affecting researchers after graduation. These inequalities are brought by structural barriers, exclusionary research cultures, unequal access to network funding, and limited visibility and role modeling. So there was something that we had to do about it. So the call was launched, and we have made a proposal for the EDI research project and joined forces with the University of York and Kent. These are our colleagues from York and Kent. And our project is a collaborative research project that aims to address systemic racism in chemistry in the UK, improve recruitment, representation, and progression of Black and minority ethnic chemists in research-related careers after their graduation. So our project offers a variety of different activities. We offer employment to our student partners who are helping lead the project and do lots of wonderful work for the project. We offer bursaries to our project students, and many of our project students are doing great chemistry that we are looking forward to disseminate very shortly. We will be having a research showcase event. We also have different community events and networking events, including colonizing curriculum events at York, and mentoring for our students So today I'm welcoming you to the Catalyst Conversations that very much is a webinar that was built from consultation with our students and early career researchers that we wish for it to catalyze and sustain cultural change across chemistry, education, and research. Today we launched a first workshop in a series of 7 sessions. So it's entitled Confidence and Presence, Speak Up, Stand Out, Mastering High Pressure Public Speaking. Our speaker today is Dr. Umran Ali, Senior Lecturer in Creative Technology at the University of Salford. So Umran is now changed his career, but he's also been a chemist some time ago. He will tell you more about that. He's a leading practitioner in working at the intersection of Gen AI, creative technologies, and social justice. His work spans from commercial game design, influential VR series, and development of cutting-edge AI tools. So don't forget to sign up for all other sessions. And our next session will be next week. Then we have more sessions in January and February throughout March. This is the link that you can use to sign up for all of them and receive a recording in case you wish to revisit some of the topics we will be discussing. Today, I'm inviting you to leave your questions in the chat from wherever platform you are following, either YouTube or LinkedIn Live. We will be addressing your questions at the end of the talk, and you can use this link to scan it for our Padlet comments and thoughts and just feedback that will help us improve and carry on some conversations in our watch parties. Thank you very much and enjoy the talk from around today.
I'm assuming you can all see that. First of all, good morning and thank you. As Zelka said, this is the first presentation, and I'm delighted and really privileged to be the first speaker in this amazing series. My session is on confidence and presence, speak up, stand up, mastering high pressure public speaking. And as Zelka mentioned, this is part of the Catalyzing Change in Chemical Sciences project between the University of Salford, the University of York, and the University of Kent. So the session, to give you a quick overview, is going to introduce the importance and the art of public speaking. So it's going to give you some insight into how to master public speaking, hopefully, provide you some tactical hands-on tips, not only in delivering powerful, impactful speeches, but how you can realize you're in a potential, overcome fear and anxiety, and understand the importance of really kind of effective public speaking in terms of your own career and actually beyond. So before I start, actually, just a little bit about me. That's probably the first thing you're wondering is who is he and why is he speaking about public speaking? Well, I've actually been speaking about this, presenting about the art of presenting for about 20 years in terms of research, in terms of teaching and consultancy. I've taught it from degree to PhD level. The practice of presenting, this is something I still teach today, and I've taught for probably close to 4,000 students. I've worked with companies such as the BBC, ITV, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Royalty. So I'll give you a little bit of an idea what that means later on at the end. My work has covered social justice, equality. I'm also currently the UCU branch president, so I advocate and speak on behalf of staff as well as part of my work. In terms of high pressure public speaking, I've had my fair share. So this is what you see here. Is an article from ITV in terms of it was a demonstration at Media City where I spoke on stage, again in a very high pressure, very high stress environment. So again, moving from my kind of early days, which I'll talk about, into this new space where I'm kind of speaking on a national stage. And I've been lucky enough over the last 20 years to speak in all sorts of kind of different forums and places, from opening up a presentation with my kind of childhood hero, say in Livingston, as part of a BBC Academy event, to speaking at the Landscape Institute many years ago as the first games designer, to doing book launches and speaking about my kind of research. I've also spoken in the press as well. So as part of my work is kind of speaking around games design and gaming conditions and landscapes. So again, that has involved in speaking in terms of the media. I'm not going to bore you with the actual news story, but it will be there for those that want to later on. Before I start, I thought it would be really important to kind of speak about feelings, on my feelings when I came here as a student many years ago. I understood and I know exactly how it felt to be, the only non-white person in the room. The feeling of being a working class student at university, the feeling of being different to my peers and my lecturers, the feeling of being isolated due to my kind of class, my cultural ethnic characteristics, the fear of failing, the fear of letting my family down when I came to university, and the actual feeling that I had when I first started of hating presentations. I didn't like them. I didn't like speaking openly, and some of the presentations were a thing that gave me anxiety. And I've left the name of the university there for a reason, and I'm going to go back to this at the end. But again, I came to the university with all those kind of feelings, and something changed, and hopefully at the end of it, you'll see what's changed. So before we speak about public speaking, we're going to speak about the kind of the term public speaking, and actually it's something that you may hear about, but we've not really defined. So I think it's always important to start off with the definition. So public speaking is the vital means of civic engagement. It's the way you express your ideas. You have impact on issues that matter in society. It's a form of empowerment. It allows you to make a difference in something that you care about. There's a great paper actually called What's in a Name? Exploring the Definitions in Public Speaking by Valenzano. And I definitely recommend reading that. And again, it delves into this idea of what public speaking is, and it's far more than what we think it is. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to think about this, and maybe it's something we come back to at the end. Is public speaking the same as presentational speaking or speaking in a presentation? Is it the same thing? Is it different? If it's different, how is it different? Again, I just want you to hold on to that thought and think about this, and hopefully we'll come back to this at the end. So in terms of public speaking, again, this is one of the questions I want to ask you all today is, why should you bother? Why bother? Is it really an important skill? Is it a critical skill? On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is the art of public speaking? I would say the ability to speak is one of the, publicly speak is one of the most useful transferable life skills you're ever going to learn or experience, whether it be in university or out of university. It's useful and critical for presentations, something you see here today. Your Viva, if you're doing a PhD, a job interview, a court appearance, a public debate. I mean, it can even get to a point of saving your life. So effective public speaking, it can't be learned through theory. This is not something where you could probably read a book and experience and understand and learn the kind of art of it. It's something that can really only be learned through experience and practice. Again, one of the reasons why you came to university. It's not just the theory, it's the practice. I'm going to give you a very odd, what looks like a very daft question, especially for a number of you who may be chemists and scientists. What's more powerful, a nuclear weapon or your voice? The instant answer is obviously a nuclear weapon. It's something that can kind of destroy the world. I would say no. The thing that categorically has made and destroyed mankind actually is speech. It's your voice. It can change your world and it can change the world. Where's my evidence? That's a large claim to make. Where's my proof of that? Let me give you some examples. Okay, the power of speech. I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King, 1963, his defining speech on the March in Washington, it became a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement, not just in the United States, but across the world, calling for racial justice and equality. I have a dream. It's very hard to counter that. It's very hard to deny that. It's very hard to fight against that. He didn't say, I want to fight, I hate. It was actually, I have a dream. It was something that actually everyone could appeal to, everyone could go towards. The Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln, 1863. It was an incredibly profound speech, a speech of 271 words, less than 2 minutes. That was given that really at one of the most brutal places where a battle had been fought during the Civil War. Injured soldiers had come together from both sides, and actually it was an address that brought the American people back together again on their march to being, one of the most significant countries in modern day society. 271 words. The inaugural address by John F. Kennedy in 1961. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. It redefined this idea of public service and made him one of the greatest American presidents, to date. Nelson Mandela's speech in 1964, delivered on the dock for 3 hours. He stood on the dock for 3 hours and spoke about that. And at the end, he ended this with such a powerful phrase: "It is an ideal from which I am prepared to die." And actually, these speeches were often marked with people not just putting their ideals on the line, but actually their lives on the line, and inspired not only the anti-apartheid movement, but a movement across the world in terms of liberation and in terms of freedom. And again, this was someone that was standing on the stage on trial, not knowing if he was going to be imprisoned or executed, or his life was on the line. And down to the Quit India speech by Mahatma Gandhi in 1942. Gandhi's address, called for passive resistance, satyagraha, I think the term is, for immediate independence from British rule. This was the do or die speech. And again, this was a relatively plain dressed man, not a physically strong man, standing there and actually saying to the largest empire in the world, you need to go. I'm here today. My father was an Indian Muslim. I am here today because of, when you trace that speech back, probably because of that speech that was made in terms of marking that change, and actually the cycle that then my family, my father then took and ended up moving to the UK, and then obviously me becoming an academic. So again, these speeches you may not recognize have changed the world and have actually changed our worlds. So they have power, but with that incredible power also comes fear. Now, this is one thing that absolutely I'd say, we all suffer. Presentations are a form of public speaking. Research has shown that actually the vast majority of people have a fear of speaking. And this is something I want, nearly everyone watching, all our students, and I say this time and time again, it's normal. Fear and stress when you speak, it's normal. This is a normal thing. We feel it. Academics feel it. It doesn't matter if you're a 4-star research professor who's done 1,000 conferences and you've spoken on a world stage. You will probably feel anxiety and stress. It takes time to overcome. It's a skill. It's not something, maybe one in 100, the students that I encounter. It takes time and practice, or even academics, it takes time and practice. University or any kind of presentation or any kind of skill, it's not about mastery. This is not about getting to the point of where you are, the master of presentations and public speaking. Get slightly less awful. Moving on. Anxiety. I'm going to speak about anxiety. We had an academic who unfortunately passed away last year, a fantastic academic in the School of Health and Society, who used to speak about anxiety and kind of fear on public speaking. And he had this beautiful quote: one of the problems with people for anxiety is that the threat recognition and appraisal systems are not working effectively, and are processing and interpreting a wide range of stimuli as threatening when in fact they're safe. And in situations where there might be some kind of conceivable threat, the anxious person distorts and magnifies the extent of that threat. So presentations and public speaking are one of those things. There is no risk for you generally, but actually there's something inside you that's saying, look, this is dangerous, something's going to happen. So common thoughts, and this is, I wanted to share these because these are quite common. I'm going to fail. This is not going to work, or I've wasted so many years doing this, or they're going to find out I'm a fraud, and I've got imposter syndrome. I don't know my subject field. They're going to interrogate me. They're going to ask me questions I won't understand. I heard someone else failed and someone else died of thirst. So these are kind of thoughts that will kind of creep in. It's okay to verbalize them. It's okay to say, and this is why I wanted to share this kind of slide on here. It's okay to have anxiety. It's not something that's actually, abnormal. We all have it. Confidence and anxiety also go hand in hand. Confidence is earned. Very few people have this idea of real confidence. I think for the vast majority of the time, it's something that we've got to earn. It's something that you've got to kind of develop. Confidence can spread. So being successful in one activity can help you grow confidence in another. I remember I had one student who really hated presentations and had a huge amount of anxiety. I had to remind that student that actually they were one of the world's best. They were amazing at programming, and really to take the skills, to the confidence they had in programming, and to try and kind of put that onto their confidence, give them confidence in public speaking and presenting. And it took a while, but they did. University life can be a major transformational period for most, I'd say for many, for everyone. So within this kind of 3 years, it may be longer, maybe 4 years, you may do a PhD, you will see a huge amount of transformation. And part of that is recognizing that you will grow in terms of your kind of confidence. It's a lifelong journey as well. It's not an end goal. It's not something that you're going to master. It's not something you're going to say, you know, on the 14th of July or something when you graduate. Actually, I'm confident now. It may take an extra few years. It may take, you know, it may be in the first day. It may be, you know, a lot later. But it's something that is a lifelong journey. Anxiety is like a worried child. That's the way I kind of see it in discussion with other health professionals. You know, you kind of have to reassure it. So when this is one of the tips, you know, when you're going through a presentation or you're doing something that's going to give you a little bit of anxiety, reassure yourself. Okay, it's irrational. It will tell you things. You know, it's an irrational fear, but it has real power. And this is something, you know, especially those who may have to take medication or may have, you know, support around this. It's a real thing and it has real power. Expressing that fear, expressing that you have anxiety, it's okay. Your lecturers, your staff, people around you will understand that. Okay, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, look, I'm feeling really anxious. I'm feeling really upset. Can I take a break? Can I, you know, get a little bit of support? You will find, and I will say this from being a former student here to being a staff member, your staff and your lecturers will understand this. Failure is okay. You know, it's okay to fail. I know it sounds really odd to say this. It's needed. We learn through failure. So universities aren't about mastery. They're about kind of trying and experimenting and sometimes failing, sometimes not getting things right, sometimes doing an awful presentation which doesn't quite work. And that's okay because you will progress. So again, I always say this to my first year students, you know, if you get things wrong, that's fine. We'll have other opportunities. You know, this is a 3-year journey that I've got with you at the minimum. And then there's, you know, outside, you know, hopefully when you graduate and get a job somewhere. But university is about trying and experimenting and being brave. Sometimes it is about being brave, and it sounds odd. You know, I used to have this. I could climb mountains. I could do expeditions, you know, in -4, -5 for hours and not be afraid of the weather and all sorts of things. I actually had this fear of presenting. So again, it's about being brave and recognizing this. If this is your challenge, this is your challenge. Okay, let's move on to the elements of a speech. So I'm going to cover a few things here. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on all of them, you know, but I think there are kind of core elements. So within elements of speech, you want to look at the audience, your content, your delivery, and your visuals. Let's look at delivery, which is a really important part. So when people say, oh, you know, you need to practice your delivery. Well, what does that actually mean? What does that mean, delivery? Well, it's about the way you communicate, you know, the way you speak, the way you stand, the way you act. All of these things create something called presence. And you may have heard this in passing, oh, you know, they've got amazing presence. That person walked in, they had a presence that commanded the stage. And you're thinking, okay, how do I get that? How do I have that presence? Again, I'm going to start with some definitions here. It's a defined thing. You know, there's lots of discussion on what presence is. Presence is a state of being attuned and being able to comfortably express our thoughts, feelings, and values and potential. It entails no grand spiritual quest or a transformation. Instead, it requires us to nudge ourselves moment by moment by tweaking our body language, behavior, and mindset. It's a live thing. Presence is the energy of connecting. It's a two-way street. You are present when your energy is focused, moving towards the object of attention, touching it and receiving feedback. All the way down to the last one, which is a little bit easier. Executive presence is not a measure of performance, it's a measure of image. It rests on 3 pillars: gravitas, how you're acting, your communication, how you're speaking, and appearance, how you look. So again, presence is really important. Why does it matter? Well, the first one is it commands attention. Okay, it makes the audience lean in and listen. No one wants to be at a presentation. I bet you're all thinking about something else. Someone's thinking about the shopping, someone may be thinking about lunch, someone may be checking the weather and thinking, oh, you know, maybe I want to get a quick walk in, or I need to walk the dog. There's always something pulling you away. I need you to listen to me. So I need that kind of presence. I need that attention. It builds trust. I'm trying to sell you something. I'm trying to communicate something to you. You need to be able to trust me. If you don't trust me, you're not going to listen to me. So presence is going to give me that trust, or build that trust between. Inspires action. Think about Gandhi's speech. Think about Nelson Mandela's speech. Think about all those speeches. There is a need to motivate the listener to do something. I want you to do something with this, and it creates impact. You know, did Abraham Lincoln think that 163 years later, or Nelson Mandela, 40 years later, that people would still be talking about their speech? And they will be. In another 100 years, people will still be talking about Gandhi's speech, or Nelson Mandela's, or Martin Luther King's speech, because they're memorable and they will not be forgotten. So key components: authenticity, being genuine and true to yourself. You're not here to perform. You're not here to put an act on and pretend you're someone else. So it's okay to be yourself and find who you are. And that's the beauty of being at university. Your staff and people around you will help you find that. Being, focused and mindful, being engaged. So I'm not thinking about the phone. I'm not thinking about my kind of lunch or the walk or anything like that. I am here in the moment. I'm not distracted. Okay, confidence. And again, sometimes this is it's an odd thing. Confidence is conveyed through posture, your voice, and your calm demeanor, even if you're nervous. And again, through university kind of training and through our sessions and through personal tutoring, this is something that we try and impart in you in terms of that building that confidence. And I would say that's probably the best part, probably the most critical part beginning of a university and kind of your education and teaching and learning. It's not the skills, it's not learning, Photoshop or computer programming, but actually it's those personal development skills, that connection, emotional connection with your listeners. This is not just the back of a shampoo bottle. This is something where I need to forge an emotional bridge with you to kind of, through eye contact, through relatable kind of shared experiences. Energy, okay, projecting your physical energy. I'm going to talk about this later on. Varying your tone, your volume at time, it will change to really kind of draw people in. So great speech. It's not just about the content. It's not just about your PowerPoint. It's not just the stuff you're going to see. It's not just about the delivery in terms of the speaker. And it's not just about this presence in terms of how you're saying it and how you're standing or how you may be dressed or how you may look. But it's all of those things kind of combined. Okay, so I always say it's the kind of golden triangle. You've got your audience, you've got your speaker, and you've got your PowerPoint. And within there, hopefully, you've got some sort of success. So your audience, one of the first things to do is remember this is not a one-way thing. This presentation will be different to different audiences. So one of the first questions I asked Zelka, for instance, when we had conversations, said, look, who's the audience for this? Who do I need to tailor this towards? Who are they? Where do they come from? What do they want? What's their level of ability and knowledge and expertise? Was it just PGR students? Is it undergraduate students? What are they looking for? So again, you will have to tailor your presentations towards your audience. Do your research. If you've got a small panel, go on Google, go on LinkedIn, go on Facebook, go on Twitter, find who your audience are. Okay, remember they're all human. We tend to forget that when we see a crowd of 1,000 people or beyond. And I've seen this. I've been to the States and I've presented in front of a few thousand individuals, and it's intimidating. Just don't forget that they are human. They get bored, they get tired, they laugh, they have interests, and they're human. They're just like us. There's no difference. And just remember this, okay? Keep this in your heart, not in your mind. They're not there to upset you, okay? 99.99% of people out there want you to succeed. They want the best for you. Every time you get up and every time you present, you just think everyone there wants you to succeed. And I say this as a staff member. Every time my students get up, I want them to do the best possible thing. I want them to go off and become the best presenters in the world and become successful. So if you remember that, if you have that in the back of your mind and actually kind of instill it, then that will give you that little bit of confidence. Storytelling. So good presentation, again, it's almost like a story. It has a beginning, has a middle and an end. Once upon a time, something happened and then they lived happily ever after. Okay, stories are the most ancient and powerful ways of communicating messages for us. If you think about the story of Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's older than all the religions combined. It's a story that has gone on for thousands of years and is still being told today. So again, stories are incredibly powerful. Trying to tell a story that people will remember. Try, a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you do that within your work, reports are the same. A PhD thesis is the same, isn't it? It has an introduction, it has a main part, it has the conclusion. A presentation is the same. Okay, so try and tell a story through that. Structure. Try and organize your speech into 3 basic parts. As I said, tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you just told them. Okay, so an opening introduction, something powerful, something meaningful. Okay, and then the main speech. What's the main body of your content? And then finish off with a conclusion. Finish off with something, a little bit of takeaway to remind people what they've seen. Open your speech with one of the 3 techniques: a quotation, example, or definition. I have a dream. That's such a powerful way to open up a thing, just to say something, not hatred, not an attack, not talking about injustice or death, but something so powerful. How can you fight against a dream? How can you deny a dream? Again, just so think about that. How do you hook your audience in? Think about the best TV that you've ever watched. Think about the best film or the best game. The Last of Us. It's the first couple of minutes that pulls you in. And you think, right, okay, I'm invested now. I'm staying. I'm going to listen. I'm going to watch this. Okay. In terms of content, try not to make too many points. Be aware of how many words per minute you speak at. What's your speaking rate? How much content can you get through? If you've got a 5-minute presentation and your words per minute are 200 words per minute, that's 1,000 words. That's a lot of content. Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Do we need to vary it? Presentations are often fixed. Think about Abraham Lincoln's speech. It was less than 2 minutes. It was 271 words. I would struggle to do a presentation or a public speech in that. I mean, that is really, for me, is the beauty of presentations. They don't have to be 3 hours long. They don't have to be, an hour. Abraham Lincoln's speech is still remembered to this day, and it was 271 words. It's the first test. If you're given 15 minutes an interview, you are given 15 minutes. Stick to 15 minutes. If you're given 1 minute, the elevator pitch, do 1 minute. Speed dating, it's the same thing. You're given 30 seconds to kind of sell something, to communicate what you're going to say in that first 30 seconds and that first minute. Try to flow, try to develop a sense of flow through your presentations, logically and smoothly. It's like a song. I'm just remembering the Taylor Swift song, the Ophelia one. There are catchy songs that play in your head. So presentations are about flow. How do you have your sections kind of flow one into another? So have a kind of logical sense, but an emotional sense, like music. When you listen to a beautiful piece of music, it flows in. There isn't these kind of sharp breaks. So again, it should be logical and emotional sense, and maybe move on to things like delivery. So delivery, again, this is something that is a skill. You need to practice that presentation. And I say this to my students, and then I ask them a question, say, how often do you think I've practiced the presentation that I may have given you, or an important one if I'm speaking at a conference or an event? And often it'll be 10 or 20 or 30 times. I would have practiced this, and I did practice this many, many times over and refine it. Do I need to cut it down? Do I need to expand it? Do I need to change things around? So again, practice it. Why? Because it shows, actually, it's the first sign of investment and risk. If you know your presentation, you're going to reduce the risk. You're going to increase trust. Okay, getting small things right. So like your timing, your pronunciation, your emphasis. Speak at your natural speed. Okay, and this is something I've taken feedback. When I tend to get nervous, I tend to speak a little bit faster. I get faster and faster and faster. And this is one of the things my lecturers at the time, Matt Bell, told me. He goes, Umran, when you get a bit nervous, when you're presenting, you speak very quick, almost too quick. So calm down. Speak at your natural speed. Imagine this is a conversation with your mum, or with your father, or your friends. Okay, or at home in the most relaxed environment. This is what really a public speech is, and the best ones. When you think about that, the most powerful ones are where people are speaking almost like they would speak to their family and friends. Gesturing. You may have seen me do this, and gesturing. And again, it's a very odd thing to do. If I go quiet and start gesturing, I'm still communicating something with you. So again, allow your hands. What are your hands doing? Are they in your pockets? Are you biting your fingers? Are you hiding yourself? So there's research to show that effectiveness in public speaking was higher when people gestured. Again, why do we gesture? It's a very odd thing when you think about it. I haven't got anything in my hands, but I'm still moving around. What does an open hand mean culturally? That actually means quite a lot. And it has, cultural significance, and it has that historical significance. It means I'm not hiding something. I don't have my hands behind my back. I'm, almost like, a friend. And if you think about the idea of a handshake, what's a handshake? It's the same thing, open hand. I'm not holding anything. I'm here to greet you. So again, be aware of your body language. If you're not aware, look in the mirror and present. Record yourself and present. Ask someone. So again, it can have a real kind of impact on that. Pronunciation. So again, when you're practicing and presenting, don't be afraid of doing it out loud. Your internal voice is very different to your actual voice. Your internal voice. Have you ever recorded yourself and listened to your voice? How does it sound? I bet you're all thinking it sounds awful. So when I think of my own voice, it's quite kind of nice and powerful. But when I listen to it, it's like, oh my God, was that really me? It's very different. Practice pronunciation. It's okay. You are not all dictionaries. You're not expected to know how to pronounce all different words. If I'm unsure on something, I will go onto Google. I will go onto websites. I will ask someone, how do you pronounce this word? Is it this? Is it this? Particularly, for instance, if I'm teaching storytelling and there's a French term, I'm not a native French speaker. Okay, if there's a word in Hindi, or if there's something else, sometimes I'll ask for help. Okay, So it's okay to ask how someone to pronounce it. Again, we do it as academics, or I do it, I know my peers do it. So it's okay for you to do it. If you're not sure, ask someone. Come on, ask your staff. They will help you on that. Don't be embarrassed. Clarity. Okay, so there's a beautiful image here about Albert Einstein, talking about physics. The reason why Albert Einstein was considered to be a great speaker, despite the fact that he was doing things that were kind of completely unheard of on a level, in terms of quantum physics and in science, is he had the ability to communicate really complex things simply. So intelligent communication is not being superfluous. It's not long, boring, complicated sentences with, as many adjectives and verbs and superfluous words that are needed. It's clear, concise, and simple. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the most simplest. Again, think about Abraham Lincoln's speech, 271 words, less than 2 minutes. And look how powerful it was. Use pauses. I just gave you a 5-second pause there. Well, it's about 4 seconds to think. When you want to make an important point, when you want to catch your breath, when you want to have an impact, when you want your audience to think or reflect on something, pause for something. Okay, it creates a space in your head for mental processing and storage. We are taking in stimulus and then we're thinking at the same time. So again, use a pause. It can be very powerful. Breathe. Okay, so often what I see in presentations is people will start to get panicky sometimes, and you won't breathe right. Breathing is a regulatory system. It helps us regulate ourselves. Okay, so hyperventilation is a bad thing. When you hyperventilate, you cause your carbon dioxide levels to drop. Your body stops monitoring. You breathe. It goes. Everything crashes. So find a place where you can breathe. Okay, breathe through. Don't be worried. Take a breather. Stop for a second. If you're in the middle of a presentation, you can stop and take a 5-second breath and carry on. So again, learn how you breathe. Again, it's a really important thing. We see it during physical exercise, and people who play instruments, it's something that they practice. So it's a regulatory system. So again, be careful in terms of how you breathe. One of the things I really want to speak about is your accent. I remember one student, an Indian student, when I did this session a few years ago, came to me and said, I've got a very strong accent, and how do I change that? And the first thing I said is, you don't need to change that. Sundar Pichai, the head of Google, one of the largest company in the entire world, the CEO, has an Indian accent with an American accent. He doesn't try to disguise it or change it. Just recognize you're on a world stage. Think about Nelson Mandela's accent, the imprisoned former president of Pakistan, Imran Khan's accent. Remember, you are on a world stage. You may have an accent, a northern accent. You may have a strong Newcastle accent. You may have a Nigerian accent. It doesn't matter, okay? You may have been made to feel insecure about that, but your accent is part of who you are. It has there's a beautiful saying about all accents have a symphony behind them. They have a melody, okay? So be proud of it. It's part of who you are, and it's part of your heritage, and it's part of who you are and your identity. And on a world stage, doesn't matter if you have a French accent or a Newcastle accent or a Scottish accent or an Irish accent, a Nigerian accent, is part of who you are. Okay, embrace it. And it may be the defining thing about you. It may be one thing that adds that kind of uniqueness to your voice. No one has your voice. No one has your way of saying certain things, and it will stand out. Your body language. Just be careful about your body language. Non-verbal communication. Your body reveals lots of things about you. Okay, so when we're stressed, we often do things, and you see this in police interviews, people itch their noses and do things and bite their fingers, okay? So your body will do things. If you're not sure, ask someone, record yourself. Okay, body language tells us so much without even saying anything. There's a great quote there that says, actually, our brain can draw impressions about a speaker in milliseconds just by looking at the speaker's faces and bodies. We assess all the time, talking, while if you're dating, if you're eating, if you're buying something from the shop, if you're learning, within milliseconds, you're making an assessment. When you walk in and get something from, McDonald's, or if you go and get your car fixed and the mechanics do, you're picking up vibes, you're picking up cues. Okay, it provides an instant non-verbal assessment of our intent. Are you sorry? Are you guilty? Are you confident? Are you not? Are you tired? Are you exhausted? So again, non-verbal communication is important. Try and smile. I'm not a great smiler, I have to admit. Ideally you want to smile like the image on the left. Smiles are infectious. They're, again, something that is physiological. physiological reaction to someone smiling. Obviously, you won't smile like Jack Nicholson on the right there, which can be a little bit intimidating. But again, smiling, learning how you come across. This is something I was told many years ago. So, you don't really smile much, and I probably still don't. Once in a while, I'll learn how to smile because I think it can be a very important way of communicating something, that you're happy to be there. You're happy to have this opportunity to speak. Try and time your presentations. You're limited on time. Okay, it's a tested measure. I remember speaking to Zelka about this. How long do I have? Probably not long now. You're going to have a certain amount of time, and you've got to move on. I think if you check the time, I'm more or less accurate. I think it's 10:11. It's automated. It's a tested measure. You've got 15 minutes for an interview. You've got 15 minutes. Do you have 5 minutes, with an important person to make that point? You've got 5 minutes. Are you on a speed date and you've got, 1 minute to convince someone to go on a date with you? You've got 1 minute. They're not going to give you an hour. Okay, so rehearse it, practice it. It's okay to get these things wrong and try it again until it gets to the point of being perfect. When you're finished, thank everyone. Small thing. As I said, no one really wants to be there as a presentation. Just thanking people for their time. I am taking up your time today. I am taking up valuable time where you could be with loved ones, you could be going out for a walk, you could be walking your dog, you could be sitting down playing games, you could be, sleeping, you could be doing all those things. So again, thank people. And just remember this one thing, look, you're going to be fine. Okay, it's a presentation, it's a speech. Have that in the back of your head. There's always something else, okay, something bigger. The big things in your life that will cause you worry aren't the things you probably will see coming. The presentation that actually generally, you'll be fine. Even if things go wrong, you'll have another opportunity. Even if you don't get it right, there'll be another one. So reassure yourself. Some final tips. Practice. Just practice and practice. Practice in front of the mirror. Practice in front of family and friends. Go to Costa Coffee. If it's only your grandma at home, or the guy at the coffee shop, practice in front of them. Okay, there's something called muscle memory. How the way we react, if you practice it, you'll develop a muscle memory about it. The way I do something is I think of something far worse. Okay, I've got to go and have that really awkward conversation later on. This presentation's easy. Okay, this is fine. Tell yourself you'll be okay. It sounds really odd, but you don't even need someone else to tell you that. You can reassure yourself. And actually, this is something that is, it's a proven psychological thing. If you go through a disaster or thing, just telling yourself, I'm okay, I'm safe, nothing's going to happen to me, I'm fine. And it's really weird, but the way we work psychologically is that actually it can be very reassuring. You can calm yourself down. You actually can do that. Talk about what you're scared. Look, if it's getting too much, and I recognize that people, with certain conditions, people who may be on medication, we see that all the time. Talk to your staff members, talk to people around you. It's not something that you need to hold in. It's not something that you need to, have as an anxiety and not be able to share. You can say, look, I'm scared, I'm fearful, I don't like this. Fear can be overcome largely. So again, sharing this and having this as an open discussion is okay. Think about presentation as a chance to practice before the real thing. I used to say this to my students. I used to say this thing of one day you will get to that point of you'll be able to present and it will be your dream presentation, maybe to Rockstar working on Grand Theft Auto. And I used to say this to my students. And one of my students ended up having an interview for Rockstar North, potentially working for the next Grand Theft Auto. He ended up getting the job and he worked on Grand Theft Auto 5. And I remember having the conversation and he said, oh my God, it actually happened. So again, think of it as a chance to practice before that thing in the future. So every time you have that presentation, think, look, I'm at the Oscars. This is my chance, or I've won an award, or I'm on the world stage. Even though it might be that small presentation and there's only 5 people there, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning and you think no one's going to care, you go in there and you do it as best as you can. Don't worry. Okay, it takes time. Not everyone can be great. Okay, it's not about being great. It's about practice. Sorry, it's not. It's about progression, not practice. I'm going to finish off now with my final conclusion. Public speaking is more just than the PowerPoint and the content delivery and audience. A good speech can change everything. Okay, anxiety and confidence are lifelong challenges. This is not something that you may conquer during your university years. It may be something else, but they will be there all the way through. And actually, for the most part, I would say your confidence will grow. And I've seen that in students. Public speaking is a lifelong useful skill. It will never not help you. And that's why it's so important to kind of learn or to start that journey. Use your academic journey to progress This is not about mastery. University is not about mastering skills. It's about progression, just moving up a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, compounding that every single day. And again, finally, just in terms of my experiences, you know, I've ended up in some amazing places. The Game Developers Conference in the States, where I spoke, you know, in front of a few thousand people, to being the first person to speak at the Chartered Institute of Ecologists and Environmental Managers, the first person on games design. Some people walked out before I think it because I thought it'd be a waste of time. At the end, I got a standing ovation. You know, to meeting Ian Livingstone, my childhood hero, and doing an event with him as the opener. And again, it was a dream come true from the first moment my mum brought me the Forest of Doom when I was a kid, to meeting, you know, my hero because of the university, to opening up Media City with the Duke of Edinburgh. And again, I've had amazing opportunities. And I'm going to finish off very quickly here with the feeling, okay, those old feelings, the old me, the feeling of being the only non-white person in the room, being working class, being different, being scared and afraid, and not hating presentations, to me now, where I know my peers and my lecturers want the best for me, and my staff. You know, my degree helped me breach that class ceiling. It's not just being okay, being different, but actually it enabled my growth. You know, my cultural, class, or ethnic characteristics, it gave me an insight and a valued perspective. Failing, I will fail. I fail all the time. But I know for a fact that's been, you know, it's on the road to success. It's helped me. And actually, I've moved to a point now where I love speaking, presenting, and sharing ideas. And the one thing that was there that helped me was actually the university. So finally, I want you to think about those individuals, okay? I want you to think about, you know, Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela or you know, Martin Luther King or John F. Kennedy. I think when they were 15 or 16 or 20, did they think that they would make a speech that would change the world? And I guarantee you, I don't think they did. So my final thought to you is, thank you, but actually, why not you? Anyway, I'm going to end it there. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop the screen, stop sharing, and then move back to the presentation. Stop sharing. There we go.
Thank you very much,
I'm going to pass it over to Zelka and to my colleagues now.
Thank you very much, Umran. This was great. We enjoyed the presentation, and I'm sure there are some questions for you. So can we roll on the first question? So Julia from University of York is asking, any advice for developing... I can
see some questions, but I'm not sure if Zelka's back. Any advice for developing our storytelling skills? Yes, absolutely. So this is something I teach actually in my kind of day job at the university. Watch stories, watch anything. I mean, I was watching Stranger Things the other day. I was watching the final series. I'm watching Better Call Saul. I read, I play games. Surround yourself with good stories. What's the best story that you've watched? What's the thing that made you feel something? What's the last story that made you feel that, you know, kept you up at night at 3 o'clock in the morning, that made you cry, that made you laugh, that made you, you know, all sorts of, whatever it may be. What's that story that made you kind of, wow, this, you know, it distracted you, it kind of threw you off. Think about that, and then think about, how do I apply that skill? How do I apply that emotion to my work? Because that's what you want. Ultimately, you want an emotional connection to your audience that will make you remember. Okay. How do you know how much depth is right in the speech without overwhelming the audience emotionally? You don't. That's a really hard question. It's a really good question. I would say, why not overwhelm your audience? I know that's maybe a dangerous thing to say, but you want that emotional connection. If someone has that, if you get that emotional connection from a presentation or a speech, you're going to connect with that person. You're going to connect with your audience. They are going to remember that. They are going to hold on to that, and they are going to enact it and do something with it, rather than the other presentations. And I'm sure you've had that. If you're a student, you've had presentations where you've probably fallen asleep. You have no idea what was said. You know, okay, I don't know, they were speaking about, you know, hybridized orbitals or, you know, an element. I have no idea what was said. Okay. So again, I would say just go ahead and try an experiment. If you get it wrong, you'll get feedback. So when you're working on presence, how do you make sure confidence doesn't come across as arrogance? Maybe it's just talk from a personal perspective, talk about things that went wrong. Arrogance is not having any flaws, I would say, or not having any weaknesses. I mean, that's one of the things that I have included in my presentation. You know, things that were potentially my weaknesses were my weaknesses. The feelings of me feeling kind of scared or afraid. Arrogant people don't talk about that. So again, you know, when you're demonstrating confidence, it's a very delicate thing. Get feedback. That's the number one thing I would say, is in terms of your presentations, in terms of how you're thinking, present beforehand. Ask someone, how do I come across? Actually, you're coming across a little bit arrogant then, a little bit too strong. Okay, how do I wind it back? What's wrong with that? So again, it's a dialogue. It's something that you're going to have to form through speaking and presenting and experimenting and asking. Sit with your peers, sit with your family, sit with the people in Costa. You know, it's the whole idea of a soapbox. The soapbox was literally the box that they had, the wooden box that they put outside on the market, they'd stood on and they spoke on. So again, it's one of those things that there isn't, you know, a science to it. It's an art. So try it. Get to the point of where people have said, look, you're actually arrogant, and then tone it back a bit. When you're put on the spot, how do you keep your thoughts clear and not blank or overthink? Take your time. Okay, it's like that car behind you. If you've ever drove and there's a car behind you, don't worry about it. It's the car in front of you. So take your time and think. There's nothing stopping you from, okay, let me think about that question. Not the first thing that comes out to my mind. Actually, I'm in control of this. I'm going to take my time. Let me think. What you're asking. So could you clarify that question? I'm not sure I'm understanding that. Or could you reword that? Sorry, it's okay to do that. It's absolutely fine. Remember, you're having a conversation. If your friend asked you something really complicated, what would you say? So I don't understand what you mean. What do you mean? Oh, okay. Could you kind of clarify that? Could you reinterpret that and then think, right, okay, what's the thing they're after? So take your time. Maybe take a deep breath in. Small things. Overthinking, I mean, that's a very hard thing. Often we overthink as anxiety. How do you deal with discouragement, protect your confidence and keep going? That's a really good question. How do you deal with discouragement, protect your confidence and keep going? It's that determination. How do you do it? Remind yourself, do things that you know you're good at. Do things that are within your control, that don't depend on anyone else, that will bring you success. And then from that little activity or from that thing, grow your confidence. So I've had all sorts of challenges in my life, but the one thing I've always done is walked, and I walk excessively. I've covered close to probably about 10,000 miles in 6 years. And I know my success in walking is, I may have failures in my teaching and my research. Of course we all do, okay, in my presenting all sorts of work. But I take the confidence in that and I think, actually, I'm going to carry on. So it's a hard thing, and you will learn, when you're younger, when you're quite young, actually, it's a really hard thing to do. It's a really hard thing to do. Discouragement and protecting your confidence it's not easy. But when you get older and when you age, it's one thing that starts to develop. You start to gain that confidence. Okay, and surround yourself with people that will do the opposite. Surround yourself with people that will encourage you. And this is a great thing about having, the staff at the university. It could be a security guard. It could be someone in the library. It could be your academic. They really want the best of you. What can you do if things go wrong, like mouth going dry or technology failing? Great question, Andy. Have some water. Have some water to hand. Think about a backstop. Okay, look, we've all had that. Sometimes the PowerPoint's failed. What's my solution? Right, I'm just going to engage with the audience. Sorry, guys, I'm going to apologize. Look, the thing is not working today. Right, we're going to do something different. Always have maybe a little bit of preparation in the background where you're thinking about, okay, technology is going to fail. Am I going to sit there like this awkwardly? Or am I going to ask everyone? And I've done that. So guys, I've done that at storytelling conferences and events. What's everyone reading or watching or playing at the moment? What's everyone doing? So again, sometimes that will happen, and sometimes you will stop. But I always say, keep some water by close by, because it can be really useful. And then bank on technology going wrong. It will always go wrong. Maybe have a story. Again, this is back to the great thing. Have a story ready. I speak about one student who had a panic attack during his first year presentation and left the classroom and said, actually, I can't present. I want to quit. And I remember when we had gone through kind of personal tutorials and coached that student, and I was so proud. At the end of the third year, that student presented to our entire cohort of 120 students, members of the industry, and a panel. And they ended up getting a first. And oh my God, it was the most amazing presentation. They went off to work in the games industry. But for me, it was a really emotional moment from seeing that progression and then sharing that. actually sharing that. So again, maybe stories and things. Okay, I'm not sure if there's any extra questions or if there's any additional questions or comments. Oh, there we go. There's Zelka. I can finally see my colleague. You left me there. You left me alone for a second now, so I had to ad-lib and make these things up. The other thing I'd say very quickly is I will share the presentation. For those at the university, I am obviously, if you see me, if you want to ask me a question, by all means do so. I will be available, but really just to start, be confident, be brave. If you get things wrong, don't give up, because it can be such a transformatory thing for you in terms of the overall progression. And I think that's the beauty of universities, is that they will help, really, it's a word, empower and inspire you. And I always feel like an imposter here, and I'll say this genuinely, from working with people like Zelka or Andy or others, that we've got some amazing staff here that have done all sorts of things, and we can all learn. You can all learn and find, and people are, if they will help you, they will guide you, they will encourage you, and we all want the best for you. If someone makes that speech tomorrow, and hopefully I've met that person that changes the world, I'm going to think, what an amazing thing. So again, thank you. Over to you,
Well,
Zelka.
thank you very much, Umran, and thank you all for these amazing questions. Speaking about imposter, next week on Thursday, we have our next session, Belonging in Self-Belief, Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. There it is. And in your space, we will be welcoming Dr. William Da Silveira and Dr. Caroline Topham from the University of Salford, who have extensive experience and expertise around this topic. So please join us next week. You can use this code to register for all of these talks. We will be always live on YouTube and LinkedIn of the School of Science, Engineering and Environment. And if you cannot attend the live talk, you can watch the recording, and you can always interact with the Padlet after the talk and capture some thoughts and feedback. And thank you so much for your attending today, and wish you a very good day.